Howdy, partners. Happy Saturday to you. Welcome to 3 straight days of streaming as we plan to be here today for the podcast, tomorrow for a watch-along, and we're going to be here Monday night for a Raw review because I wasn't here last week, or this past Monday for a Raw review, and it was another absolutely insane week for me personally, just really, really busy, and I needed to come up here and spend some time with y'all this weekend. So get ready for a whole lot of me over the next 72 hours, and we got some stuff to get into today, primarily wrestling results, Raw, Smackdown, and Dynamite this week. I want to get into what we saw on those shows because there were some noteworthy things that went down. I don't think this week of TV was as good as last week. I think Raw and Dynamite were significantly weaker, but last night's SmackDown delivered. I was expecting kind of a shitty show, and I was expecting to have a podcast today where we were talking about maybe the lackluster quality of all three of the big shows, Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. But SmackDown actually had a pretty decent one last night. 2, count them, title changes, along with a couple more great in-ring segments between Kevin Owens and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and a really heartwarming segment that we're going to open with here, as you see, Chelsea Green and her broken orbital bone and her WWE Women's Championship and the future of her title reign. So we're going to get into last night's SmackDown. In terms of Raw and Dynamite, not reviewing the whole shows today, just going to talk about some of the key points in some of the matches that we saw, and we're going to be getting into wrestling news, specifically news on Bayley, what her situation may or may not be in WWE and possibly heading over to AEW, and AEW dropped a big hint on Wednesday as to where the New Day, Kofi and Creed, may wind up debuting, or when they might wind up debuting, and it sounds like we might have a little bit better of an idea about that. In addition to the results, it's really just going to be kind of a casual discussion today. We're going to talk about the Lucha Tournament. We're going to talk about upcoming pay-per-views. We've got Worlds Collide. We've got Triple Mania. We've got Sunday night's main event. We've got TNA Lockdown. We've got Sunday night's main event coming up in a couple of weeks. And, of course, we have All In as well. And we have new matches announced for pretty much all of these shows. So we're going to kind of get into all of that. Nice little just shish kebab of stuff to talk about today. And I'm looking forward to it. Just kicking back and hanging out, chatting with you guys about wrestling, and like I said, we're going to be back at it again tomorrow and on Monday. So that's kind of what's on the tap or the menu for today. Last week's Wingy felt a little bit more newsworthy as I'm reading through my news here. The only news stories we're going to touch on today, we're going to do this later, is the Bayley stuff. I want to talk about the AJ Styles' son, the drama that was going on with him at the indie show, and AJ stepping in to defend him. Like I said, we're going to talk about New Day and their possibility of debuting at All In. We'll talk about Aaliyah Mysterio on WWE's internal roster, and I did catch this past Tuesday's Dark Side of the Ring episode with Paul Orndorff, and we'll discuss a little bit about that as well. But that's kind of what's on tap for this afternoon. And before I do some shout outs here in the chat, let me just let you know what you can expect tomorrow. Watch-along time. We decided last week during the watch-along when we were here to watch SummerSlam 1996, and we were trying to decide which watch-along to do tomorrow. Since it's still SummerSlam season, maybe we'll try to do a SummerSlam we haven't done, even though we've done 1988 through 2006. And I think it was Chris who mentioned doing a Vault watch-along, and I thought that was a really good idea. So I handpicked 7 long matches from WWE's YouTube channel from SummerSlam, and that is what we are going to watch tomorrow, basically like a Vault watch-along. So these are the matches on tap for tomorrow night. We're going to be live at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. This is going to go a little bit longer than 3 hours because we have 7 matches here, and they're all pretty long. So we're probably looking at about a 3.5-hour watch-along tomorrow evening. But these are all the matches we're going to see, all 7 of them. We're going to be spanning a lot of different decades, as you see. We're going to tap into my childhood in the 1980s with Macho Man and Zeus. Then we're going to go into my early teen years in the 1990s with Bret and Perfect and Bret and Owen. Then we're going to go into the Attitude Era years when I was in my 20s and watch Triple H and The Rock's ladder match from SummerSlam 1998. And then in more modern times, we're going to show some love to our three retirees, John Cena and AJ Styles one-on-one from 2016, and Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from 2014. I actually did a watch-along of that match about 7 or 8 years ago, way back in the old apartment, so we need an updated version of that. And I never even really think I've even seen the Christian and Randy Orton No Holds Barred, I think it's No Holds Barred match from SummerSlam 2011, so I just randomly selected that to give us a nice variety. I didn't want to go all in on Bret Hart or all in on the 90s SummerSlams. I wanted to kind of spread them out across, 3 or 4 different decades, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. So these are the matches that are on tap. Tomorrow evening, we will be live 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific to start watching these, and all of the matches are available on YouTube. And I'll have the link to each and every one of these matches in the description below tomorrow night. The link is already up for tomorrow, so go on over there and save it. And that's going to be our party tomorrow night. And like I said, we will be here Monday night as well. I'm really glad that I did not do a Raw review this past Monday. It looked like a really good Raw to skip. So I'm hoping that this Monday we get some good stuff happening so we can come up here and talk about it on Monday night. So that is what is on tap for the next 3 days. Let me say hello to everyone in the chat real quick. And then let's get jumping in to our SmackDown results. By the way, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. All super chats will be answered. And if you are watching this on demand, please drop a comment below. I have killed ads on all the live streams, so you will never be interrupted. If you are watching live, if you are watching on demand, you probably will see ads. But just keep that in mind. If you join live, I do not fuck with ads. You guys are awesome. RKO Kane, where did you think they were going? TNA, who are you talking about? New Day? You think I think New Day's going to TNA? That's what you think. Who are you responding to? I guess you're talking to me. I don't know. Your comment makes no sense, but good to see you. Rodrigo, also good to see you. Handsome Steve Jacobson, that makes 2 of us. Jim K, good to see you. Brandon Pengely, what's up, man? Garrett Osborne, Ricky Zalvadar. We got Trey. We got David Brown. We got Mike Rouse, Ian Dunn, Garrett Osborne, KA90, Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff, have you ever seen Ghetto Gumby? You know, the Gumby 1940s claymation shit. There's a YouTube video, it's like 20 years old. It's called Ghetto Gumby, and they revoice it. And Jigglypuff is in there, and it just made me think of that. Anyway, good to see you, Jigglypuff. This thing says it's on slow mode, then tells me to send a message every 5 seconds. That's not slow at all. Yeah, slow mode, when I set it to that, slow mode lets you pick any amount of time. So any sort of delay at all, 1 second to 3 minutes is considered slow mode. So sorry if that bothers you, but that's what we have to do here to make sure we keep a lid on any spam. We've got, now I lost my place again. Good to see Gilbert. Happy you're here, man. Melissa, Ryan Adams, thank you for all of the SmackDown updates last night. I was so damn slammed that I barely got a chance to even peek at my phone all day, much less what was happening on SmackDown. So about 11 o'clock last night, which would have been 2 in the morning on the East Coast, I finally get a look at my phone and I see all of Ryan, or most of Ryan's updates on what went down on SmackDown last night, and I watched it at 2 o'clock in the fucking morning this morning. Good to see Big Funds HC is in the house. Ian Dunn, Isaac, Chas Medeiros, Sports and Things show is here as well. Good to see Trey. I think I got you, Trey, a couple of times. Denny Down Bad. Yes, and I am aware of Cody and Randy. They will be facing at Sunday night's main event, but not Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is not until, I believe, October 10th. So we are still close to 2 months away from the next WWE PLE. So it'll be interesting to see what the field is like for that Money in the Bank and how many of the top stars are in there. And it's also looking like Roman Reigns versus LA Knight will be the main event for that. Why is my microphone crooked? There we go. Let's fix that. I'm all crooked up here. We ain't trying to be crooked. Anyway, we are straightened out now. Okay, well, let's start getting into things here, I guess, since I've said Hello to everyone. I think we need to start with last night's Smackdown. And the show opened up with a very interesting segment. What I liked about this is it was interesting. And I didn't expect to see what I saw happen. And I was complimenting or thanking Ryan for sending me all the Smackdown updates last night. I did see the first one you sent about the Chelsea thing. And then, like, later on, like I said, late at night when I'm now getting a chance to look at SmackDown and I'm looking at, the Twitter feed and how many people were complaining, yelling and screaming that Nick Aldis is stripping Chelsea. They didn't even wait until the end of the segment before they started bitching, which makes me think that made me think that they must have done a pretty good job of fooling the audience here. So I was excited to come home and see this full segment for myself. So, of course, as we know, last week on SmackDown, I believe it happened on the finisher with toxic influence. What the fuck are they? I still don't know. On their finisher, looks like Chelsea got injured there. They're trying to credit JC Jane, I think, either with the rolling forearm or another spot in the match, but I think it happened on the finisher where Chelsea suffered a broken orbital bone while taking the finisher from Don Henley and Jimmy Fallon. So she went down with a broken orbital bone, posted a video on social media from her bathroom, showing her black eye and confirming that she did have a broken orbital bone. And so this was really, really unfortunate because she's already, or was already, the interim champion, even though it seems like they dropped that interim nonsense once Rhea Ripley had her surgery. Now we know she's going to be out for some time, so they're not worrying about the interim thing anymore. But once Chelsea got hurt, it started to look like we're going to have an interim champion. And so a lot of fans were hoping that since Liv Morgan hasn't defended the belt since fucking Obama was president, that maybe she won't have to relinquish the title. It's just a broken orbital bone. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Just a broken, she only broke her skull. As long as there's not a concussion there, I would think that would be maybe similar to a broken nose. Put a mask on, take some time off, let it heal a bit. You should be okay type of thing. Like I said, provided there's no concussion or serious damage to your head, you in theory should be okay. I think that's what we were all holding out hope for. So last night, Nick Aldis is out there with Chelsea Green, and he informs her that he has to force her to relinquish the championship. WWE management has informed him that she must forfeit the title, and Chelsea then proceeds to cut the promo of her life, talking about all the sacrifices, all the blood and the sweat and the tears and the face in pies, the broken noses being thrown in dumpsters, all the shit that she has done. And what I liked about this is she was 100% right in everything she said. Chelsea I think we could all attest to this and all agree with this, is that Chelsea gives it her all. One of the reasons why fans love her so much and why she is so entertaining is because no matter what she is sent out there to do, whether it's win a world championship or get thrown in a dumpster, she is giving you the same effort on every single situation. She makes the most of every single second she's on TV, regardless of what she's doing. And she has connected. And that's what it's all about, connecting with the audience. And she's had the audience's support for quite a while now. And then, of course, when the WWE Unreal stuff happened and Michael Hayes, I don't know if she's good enough to be a world champion, and all the doubts there, using that as more motivation and even shouting out Michael Hayes in her celebration last week, to see her get to the top of the mountain was, even in an interim way, I think was a big thrill for the fans. As soon as she was announced for that ladder match, even though the interim thing was stupid, I was the one that was saying she would actually be great at this. She would be great in an interim role. And it turns out she was never going to have a chance to really follow through with that anyway, as they were going to drop the interim thing. But now with her being hurt, it's like, shit, they're going to have to forfeit the title a second time and do it again. So Chelsea, it wasn't really pleading her case. I think she was just venting her frustration to the SmackDown general manager, and talked about all the sacrifices she made and how hard she's worked and the fan support and all of that, and then just says, here's your fucking belt, and then just leaves. And what she said was enough to convince Nick Aldis to basically change his mind. He said, the general manager, Nick Aldis, wants to strip you or has to strip you, but the man is, I don't know what the hell he said, but basically Chelsea convinced him in that promo, and he said, come on back. He had the title. She had given him the title. He asked her to come back, and he said, you know what? I'm going to give you 30 days. 30 days to get cleared, get a mask, get whatever you need to do to get cleared, do whatever you need to do to get cleared, and I've decided not to strip you. So the fans love that. All the fans that were tapping away on their keyboards, bitching like crazy. All those tweets are still up. I was laughing reading them all night long. I can't believe WWE's stripping Chelsea. And then just mere moments after that, she's going to keep the championship. And I really do think that's the right call, because if they would have forced her to forfeit the title here, that would have meant one of two things. Either one, they're either hypocrites because they let Liv Morgan go for so long, or two, Chelsea does have some serious damage. The fact that they're giving her 30 days to get cleared makes me think that WWE expects her to be cleared within that time. So maybe at first, they had to evaluate her, get her to TV, get her looked at by the doctors. All right, couple weeks, you should be good to go. So instead of stripping you, they're going to do this. And that's positive news, because if this would have been like a concussion, or if there would have been some, the fracture would have been bad enough to where, she's got to be on the shelf for several months, that would have derailed just an unbelievable amount of momentum for her. So I think WWE's doing the right thing by making this ruling here and giving her 30 days, which is what she should have anyway. But even as back when I was a kid, it used to always be 30 days. If you didn't defend the title in 30 days, then there was a problem, but that has been really loosely policed over the past, several decades, to the point where you have your Brock Lesnar's and your Roman Reigns going weeks and weeks and months and months and months at a time without defending their titles. So that 30-day shit doesn't really mean anything anyway. But I still like to think that rule kind of floats out there. So you should at least give your champion 30 days to get her shit together. Aldis did. Chelsea was happy. The fans were elated. And I think everybody, whether they were in the crowd or at home or tapping away on social media or running around like a chicken with his head fucking cut off at work, like I was last night, that was extremely pleasing for all of us. I think all of us were extremely relieved that Chelsea is not, at least for right now, going to have to drop the belt. Because even last week, there were some concerns with how WWE is going to utilize Chelsea as champion. I mean, she got pinned, didn't she, last week? And, and then she was beat down this week by Nia Jax and Lash a Legend. Or no, that was last week. Yeah, that was last week that she got beat down. It was Tiffany that got beat down this week. But a lot of us were concerned, like, oh, they're going to make her a joke of a champion. And I would like her to, Chelsea's Chelsea. She's still going to have that Chelsea personality and those Chelsea things about her. But I don't think you need to book her like a complete joke or someone who's inferior that just happens to have fallen ass backwards into a title run. I want them to present her as somebody that is worthy of holding this championship. And now she's going to be, at least not in the ring for a little while, but that sounds like this is pretty likely that she's going to be cleared within 30 days. So once that happens and she's back in the ring, let's hope WWE doesn't just beat her and pin her every damn week on TV. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right after Chelsea learns that she's going to be keeping the title at least for the next 30 days, of all the wrestlers' music that could have hit, I was not expecting Gunther's music to play. So I guess we're setting up for Money in the Bank here, Gunther versus Chelsea Green. So Gunther comes out, and he's basically mad at Nick Aldis. He wants an explanation for why Kevin Owens was added to his SummerSlam match and all that shit. And Aldis is like, I'm kind of doing business right now. I don't know if you know that. And Chelsea kind of throws some shade at Gunther and says that she's the only champion in this ring right now. Like, basically, why don't you get the hell out of here? And that's when Gunther starts getting in Chelsea's face. Like, what's Gunther going to do to Chelsea? So Gunther is now facing off with Chelsea Green, and that's when hubby Matt Cardona runs in to get in Gunther's face, and Gunther delivers the hilarious line all the way from catering to the rescue, which I fucking popped. I think the fans popped for that too. And Gunther shows no fear whatsoever to Matt Cardona and says, there's nothing you can do. You can't do anything to me. I could call your wife every slur in the book, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And then, of course, Matt Cardona attacks, knocks Gunther's ass out of the ring. We go to commercial. We come back, and we got an impromptu match. Gunther versus Matt Cardona, both apparently wrestling in jeans, or Gunther's got some dress pants on, and Cardona's got the jeans. And of course, it's going to be a win for Gunther. Matt Cardona did put up a pretty decent fight. I mean, he was fighting for the honor of his wife, so this can't be an absolute squash or anything like that, but it was pretty definitive, decisive win there for Gunther, beating Matt Cardona, tapping him out with the Boston Crab, and they were in Boston last night for Smackdown. Right after that match, when Chelsea is tending to Matt Cardona, she is then confronted by Nia Jax and Lash Legend. They corner her. Tiffany Stratton, who has a U.S. title shot later on in the night, comes out to make the save for Chelsea, and that would wind up costing her because Nia and Lash, that is, would take out Tiffy. So that's what went on there with Chelsea and her championship. So now she is going to remain the champion at least for the next 30 days. I believe she probably will get cleared, and if that's the case, that's going to put her around mid-September before she has a match again, so she probably won't have anything going on at Sunday night's main event unless she can get cleared before then. Otherwise, then she might have a title defense possibly at Money in the Bank, or her title could be in jeopardy as early as Money in the Bank. But at least for right now, Chelsea is still the champ. I think that was the right call. Too many fans are on her side, and I think that would have rubbed the audience the wrong way to strip her unless they had no choice. Like if they know Chelsea's out for 4 months, then you have to strip her. You got no choice. So I think that this ruling is a positive sign for fans and for Chelsea that this orbital bone injury shouldn't keep her out for too long, even though it sucks and it's extremely unfortunate. Also last night on SmackDown, Carmelo Hayes is back. He got a U.S. title shot against Baron Corbin and lost. Clean. Pretty clean. I think the finish was Melo going up to the top. Corbin throws him off and he lands on the barricade, gets back in the ring, end of days for the win. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, Melo won the U.S. title, was heading into WrestleMania with that U.S. title, and then they took it off of him, and he missed the whole pay-per-view. Then he misses SummerSlam in a match that he should have been in. He's still mixed up in the U.S. title scene. Then they bring back Baron Corbin after a couple of years and give him the SummerSlam match. I don't even know how to respond to this or to try to make sense of it. It makes none. So I don't know how you would not want to wasn't Melo like the number one pick or some shit when they did the last draft? Like, what has happened here? So Corbin wins. He's still got the furry title. And then that's when Trick Williams' music plays. Trick starts coming out, but then from behind, Lil Yachty is back with the Trick stick and nails Baron Corbin from behind. And he, of course, no-sells it, goes after Lil Yachty, but that's when Trick comes in the ring and hits Baron Corbin with the Trick shot. And the only thing I can think of here is what they're going to do, because if you look at the promotional poster for Sunday night's main event, which is actually on my birthday, I'm not sure what I'm doing that night. I might be having a family dinner, but we might be doing it a different day. So if I'm home, we're going to do a birthday Sunday night's main event watch-along party and review that night. I'm not sure yet, though. But it's in Atlanta, and Trick and Yachty are all over the promotional poster, or the whatever the fuck it's called, for Sunday night's main event. So I feel like, since number one, he's heavily featured on the Sunday night main event graphic, and Baron Corbin is still carrying around the furry title, meaning, now I love a good furry title. Like all my championships, the softer the better, but I would think that if Corbin was going to win that custom championship from a wrestler, then he would immediately just have the regular U.S. title back, and he's still carrying around the furry belt, which makes me think that Trick Williams is probably going to win back the furry belt at Sunday night's main event in Atlanta. Is that where Trick's from? Or is Lil Yachty from Atlanta? Somebody's from Atlanta. Geo Metro is from Atlanta, right? Remember when they had Cody and Cody came in with the Triple H in the parking garage? And he's like, I'm going to get you Geo Metro. And that his name, Geo Metro or something. So I think that Trick is going to win the title back on Sunday night's main event. Also, we had, I guess, we saw Tatum Paxley debut last week, joining Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Alexa and Charlotte were walking through the hallways, and they come across Tatum's little locker room there, and she's got this entire shrine, this creepy-ass shit with a candle and, like, pictures of Alexa and Charlotte all over the wall, and they looked a little bit creeped out by it. So I don't know if you can really out-creep Alexa Bliss. She was pretty good at that during the Fiend days. So now that... And Paxley was like, come on in. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Yeah, wow, pictures. Oh, I think Charlotte goes, oh, a collage. There's like a video. It's, I don't know how many decades old it is now, of a little kid at Christmas. Parents like wrap up bullshit items to give to their kids to troll them and film them, as a prank. And they wrapped up an avocado for a little kid. And he's just the nicest little boy. He opens up his present. He goes, an avocado, thanks. Instead of flipping his shit like the parents thought he was going to do, he's like, oh, thank you, an avocado. And just watching Charlotte go, oh, a collage, while slowly backing up while dialing 911 in your pocket and running the fuck out of there. I loved that. So anyway, I think I'm going to get a kick out of this little trio of these three women because Tatum Paxley looks like all kinds of fun, and I'm enjoying Charlotte being a little bit creeped out by that. And maybe Tatum and Alexa might find more of a common ground. Not common ground, they already have common ground, but more of a bond, I should say. And Charlotte might find herself as being the odd woman out because she's never really gone down that dark gothic road that Tater is and that Alexa has been down in the past. Is that what it's called? Gothic emo? Is that what it is? Emo? I don't fucking know. Anyway, that I thought was fun and interesting. Also, last night on Smackdown, round 2 between Kevin Owens and CM Punk. This one was arguably better than last week. This was really great. This match is happening next week on SmackDown. Next week in Toronto, CM Punk defends the WWE title against Kevin Owens on television. So that's going to be a big match. I think we all know how it's going to go. We'll talk about that later. I already know the finish. We already know what's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that this stuff isn't really, really interesting. I feel like Owens and Punk are succeeding in their in-ring promos where Punk and Cody failed. Like, this is the type of shit I was expecting from them. These are the type of fireworks I wanted to see from Cody and Punk. I thought there was enough there, but maybe just because of the couple of years of their association on TV and their friendship and whatnot, that's made it a little bit less interesting. But we all have known and have heard about the issues between Kevin Owens and CM Punk that date back 20 years. And since Punk has been back in WWE for nearly 3 years now, he has not crossed paths with Kevin Owens yet. And I don't believe they've ever in their entire careers had a one-on-one match together, not even back in the day. So, because Owens came in after Punk was gone, and then on the Indies and Ring of Honor and stuff, I don't think they ever worked together. So this should be the first ever match between them, and it's for a world championship. It's pretty huge. So this was really good. I enjoyed it. Maybe even better than last week, because as good as their promo was last week, I really liked what I saw from Cody and Orton last week. Maybe even better than that. But this week, it all goes to them because it was really, really great. And what I liked about this promo is that they were given a lot of time, maybe too much time, but they didn't waste any. Once the entrances were done, boom, we're talking about the history from 20 years ago. And Owens, brings up their beef from 20 years ago, and Punk's like, let's get it out. Let's talk about it. Let's air out all the bullshit here. And so they basically tell the story of what happened 20 years ago, the t-shirt story, without mentioning the t-shirt itself. Basically, Owens just says that Punk came into a locker room 20 years ago and berated me and insulted me in front of an entire locker room, and he was a jerk off and an asshole. He doesn't like CM Punk and how he treats people and he doesn't like how he treats his friends. And Punk goes, which ones? Which friends? Be more specific. And Owens said, it's more than just 3. And I guess he's referencing Jack Perry and the Bucks, unless he's referencing the Bucks and Kenny. Probably the Bucks and Kenny. He goes, it's more than just 3. But he says, every single friend I have hates you. And Punk says, being hated by losers is the price I pay for not being one of them, which he said before. And that one didn't really land because I don't really think you can call Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Kevin Owens. I don't think you can call any of those guys losers. They are all very, very successful and top wrestlers, in the world. So I don't know if that really landed properly. I think Punk just wanted to deliver that line, even though it didn't really fit. And Owens, they're really in each other's faces now. Owens even backs away from Punk at one point because he says his breath is a little bad. And Owens said that everything Punk does and says is performative, and Punk is a phony. And the only reason he came back to WWE to make amends is because he had no choice, because he screwed up every other place that he worked, where Owens has been here for 12 years. He's won championships. He's won the Universal title. He's won every singles title there is to win. He has main evented WrestleManias, and he has done something that Punk will never do, and that's main event a WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Punk, the whole time, is just kind of laughing this off. That's the only thing I didn't really like about this, is that I understand that you have to, disrespect your opponent, but I think Punk was maybe laughing a little bit too much at some of the stuff Owens was saying, and he should have taken a little bit of it. It should have taken a little bit of it more seriously, I think, with some of the things that Owens was saying. And Punk went on to say, yeah, you did all those things, but do you think you would have gotten all those opportunities if I would have been here? Do you really think they would have chosen you over me? And Owens is basically like, what? Why wouldn't they? Tell me, why wouldn't they? Is it because I'm just a fat slob? I'm just a fat indie slob? And these are all things that Kevin Owens was saying. He's basically like telling Punk, say it. Say what you want to say. I'm a fat slob. I'm a wrestler on the wrong side of the guardrail. Say it. And Punk is like, is that what I think of you, or is that what you think of yourself? And he says, I called out Obafemi and I got endometriosis, which I don't even know what that is. It's some condition that women have. Very weird line there. Not really sure I understood that or where the insulting part was of that. But I didn't really get that. And talked about Owens, being able to speak 2 languages when he can only speak 1. And he considers that Kevin Owens is smarter than him. But Owens doesn't put the work in to get better. And it's a lot like, where the loser line, being hated by losers is the price I pay for not being one of them. It was similar to that in that I didn't feel like that landed very well, because what do you mean Owens hasn't put the work in? The only thing that he could realistically mean by that would be getting in the gym, and Punk has barked back at some other wrestlers, like Kevin Nash, who, because he's a big guy, feels like everybody's got to be big and muscular. And if you're not in the right game. And Punk has rallied against that before in the past. And so now it's almost like the shoe is on the other foot, and he's kind of referencing the physical condition of someone else, because if he's saying that Kevin Owens refuses to get better and put the work in, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, because Kevin Owens is a tremendous worker in the ring, every bit as good as CM Punk, in my opinion. So if Punk is talking about Owens not putting in the work to improve or get better, he's got to mean getting in the gym. And Kevin Owens just isn't a gym guy. He's never been a body guy in his entire career. And now that he's in his 40s, I don't think he's going to start now. So Owens has made a perfectly fine career for himself, utilizing the look that he has once he found it, But Punk 20 years ago was giving him shit about wearing the t-shirt and stuff. So it is cool to see some of that being woven in, and, you know, Punk even referencing, God, you've held on to this grudge for 20 years. But yeah, because fans do too. Fans don't forget this shit. You know, I remember the shoot interview. This is before Owens even got to WWE, and he talked about the incident. And even in that shoot interview, he said everything is fine between the two of them now. And that was 13, 14 years ago when he did that shoot interview. So they've been cool for years, but the fans don't really know that for sure. And we haven't seen them interact yet in the last 3 years up until now. And we've all been wondering and expecting this feud to happen at some point, because when Punk came back in 2023 and everybody kind of had their short list of people we want to see him work with, Owens was on all of our lists. So the fact that we have gotten to this now, when it was starting to look like when Owens was injured, we might not get it at all, I'm really grateful for. Even though this is not a big pay-per-view build or anything like that, this is going to be a TV match. I still think they're accomplishing a lot in a short amount of time. I think that's why they were given so much time in their last two in-ring segments, because the match is next week. They don't have 4 weeks to do a contract signing and a pull apart and all this shit. They got to get all their shit in as much as they can on the microphone, and I don't think there are two better in this business than to tell their stories on the microphone inside the ring than CM Punk and Kevin Owens. This was a real treat. I think any time these two get together, it's going to be a real treat. And I hope that beyond the title match next week, that their interactions don't end. I want to see more between them, maybe even a reluctant tag team in the future. You know, maybe there will come a time to where at least on screen they can put their beef behind them. You know, maybe they can form an alliance like Cody and Punk did, you know, because Punk had issues with Sami Zayn and a lot of other guys, and he teamed with all these people, you know, so maybe Owens and Punk, this entire thing between them is a way to kind of squash the beef, because as heated as everything got here, and I think they finished off the promo with Punk telling Owens to hit him, go ahead and hit me. You know, Owens wants Punk to say what he really feels, and Punk wants Owens just to hit him. And Punk says, I've wanted to hit you for the last 20 years. I can wait 7 more days to beat your bitch ass. And Owens says, or Punk said that he's going to put Owens' fat ass to sleep. So it took until the very end of the promo for Punk to finally call Owens a fat ass. But Owens was the one that was calling himself a fat ass a couple of times throughout the promo, and Punk wasn't saying any of this stuff. So finally Punk hit him with that at the end, and he left. There was no physicality, which I liked. They were in each other's face. I think Punk touched Owens, and he shoved his arm off, and he backed away from his stanky breath, but they didn't come to blows, and I liked that. So I think all of this, you know, is going to serve as you know, maybe kind of a cathartic feud for both of them to kind of at least squash this beef initially, and then they can continue to maybe have another match. Maybe they have a return match. Maybe there's a triple threat because Sami Zayn's going to be involved in this, as we know. And next week, one-on-one, Punk and Kevin Owens for the championship. I believe that CM Punk is going to retain next week, and Sami Zayn is going to cost Kevin Owens. That's what I believe is going to happen. It feels very, very obvious that that's going to happen. I cannot see Kevin Owens winning the championship from CM Punk, but I also can't see CM Punk beating Owens clean completely. And since they have Sami Zayn making such a stink about his opportunities, and then again what would happen to him in the main event of last night's show against Cody Rhodes, seems pretty obvious that he's going to stick his nose in this match and affect the outcome, probably screwing either intentionally or unintentionally Kevin Owens. That's what I believe will be happening next week with these two, and I guess I will be working. I wonder if I could try to be off for that. No, I think I got to work next week regardless. So yeah, I'm going to be missing the show again next week, but we will be here 1 week from today to talk about the outcome of that match. And like I said, I think it's going to be Punk retaining with the help from Sami Zayn, and we'll talk more about Sami Zayn in just a minute. Also, last night, like I said, we had 2 championships change hands. The first one was the tag titles. We have brand new Smackdown tag team champions. The MFTs defeated Priest and R-Truth and the War Raiders in a 3-way tag for the titles. And this was great because, as we saw last week, Haku is back. So Haku is back to manage his boys here, Hikuleo and Tama Tonga. They win the match here. They hit their powerbomb finisher thing on R-Truth and win the tag team titles. And just to see Haku back on TV in the WWE for the first time, I guess since he briefly came back in 2001 at the Rumble that year, and then teamed with Rikishi for a little while, for a few months before leaving again. That was his first time in the company since like 92 or 91 or something like that. So he was gone for a decade, only came back for a few months, and that was 25 years ago. So I feel like it's really been about 33 years, 34 years since, or 35 years, I guess. Shit. 3.5 decades, it feels like, since Haku was a regular on WWE television. Of course, he went to WCW around 93-ish to become Meng, and he stayed there nearly until the buyout, jumped ship right before WCW went under. So to see him back here and to see his boys win the championships. Now, I know the tag team title histories are so convoluted and belts have been... If there is no belt that traces back to the 80s anymore. That belt is already defunct. I think that belt's lineage, those tag team title that title lineage ended in like 2010 or something. I think you guys have told me in the past. But that tag team championship belt style is very close to the belts that they used in the 80s. That the Bulldogs and the Hearts and Demolition carried. And the Colossal Connection. The Colossal Connection, Andre the Giant and Haku, held those titles in 1990, the belts that look very much like the ones MFTs hold there, and that was 36 plus years ago now, 36 and a half years ago, when Andre the Giant and Haku beat Demolition. Demolition lost the belts to the Brainbusters, won them back, and then almost immediately after that, Bobby Heenan puts Andre and Haku together. They beat Demolition on TV, and then that leads to a rematch at WrestleMania 6. And one of my favorite WrestleMania matches ever, when Demolition beats the Colossal Connection and the crowd just fucking erupts. And that was a three-peat for Demolition. That was at their babyface peak. And one of my favorite Demolition moments ever, when Haku was basically wrestling in a handicap match that night, which he did every match that he was in with Andre, because Andre was so old and immobile that Haku had to do all the work. And he did all the work in that WrestleMania 6 match and lost to Demolition before they inexplicably turned heel, added a third member, and then became LOD's bitches for the next year before completely disbanding. And then we went into Repo Man land for Axe there. But good to see Haku on TV with his guys. They're champions now. I can't hate that. I don't really like the face paint on the MFTs. I'm kind of over that. But I'm glad that the MFT faction at least is over, even though it sounds like they're still kind of calling themselves the MFTs here. And it looks like they're also going to be targeted. They might not have these belts for very long because WWE ran another Shinsuke Nakamura vignette. And last week we saw the one where Nakamura said that he was going to be bringing someone, or he's coming back and he's not coming alone. So a lot of us kind of thought it might be Evil from NXT. I thought it might be Enzo. Shinsuke and Enzo, that's a team if there ever was one. But it looks like, based on the vignette, they have told us who it's going to be. Hiromu Takahashi is going to come in and leapfrog NXT and immediately just join Shinsuke on the main roster. That's kind of cool. So Takahashi, you could see, they showed his jacket, they showed the silhouette. It was him. It was him. So that's who Nakamura is bringing with him to chase, I suppose, the MFTs for the tag team titles. That's a pretty interesting, I guess, debut for Takahashi. The fact that he's coming straight in without stopping off in NXT first, I like that. So can't wait to see until he gets there. And Shinsuke referred to him as a ticking time bomb. So we will see when that goes down. But for the time being, the MFTs are the new Smackdown Tag Team Champions. And what we saw last night could very well be the final championship that R-Truth ever holds, at least in WWE. I think there's an excellent chance that Ron Killings will never hold a championship in WWE again. I believe that whenever contract he is currently on is coming up, he's either going to be kept on for a very, very cheap price, or he's going to be gone once and for all from WWE. So if that was the final championship, major championship that Ron Killings ever holds, just want to say I love you, Ron Killings. Hell of a career, man. Hell of a career. Glad you were able to come back after that bullshit release and to win a championship, but based on where he is on the roster, where he is in his career, the alliance with Damian Priest kind of seemed thrown together anyway. What other scenario could any of you possibly see for R-Truth to win another championship in WWE? I think that was it. So if that was it, respect to you, sir. Hell of a run. Hell of a run. And I hope that we still get to see his presence on WWE television more in the future, because Truth is a gem and he's a treasure. All the best to him. Also, last night, like I said, we had more championships changing hands. Jacy Jayne defeated Tiffany Stratton to win the United States Championship. Now Fatal Influence has all of them have belts as they hold the tag team titles and now the U.S. title. And, of course, Tiffany went into this match a little bit less than 100% because she ran out there to try to help Chelsea earlier on and got laid out by Lash and Nia. So now she's got to defend the U.S. title here against Jacy Jayne. And Chelsea was out there for support, of course, and Jacy had Jimmy Fallon and Don Henley with her, and they start getting into Chelsea Green's face on the outside, who can't get physical right now because of her injury, and that's when Tiffany goes to the top and does a top rope dive, saving Chelsea again. She saved her in the earlier segment. Now she dives off the top rope to save her again, and as soon as she gets back in the ring, Jacy Jayne is waiting there with that rolling encore forearm of hers, nails Tiffany with it and pins her and wins the U.S. title. So Tiffany's alliance here with Chelsea has now cost her championship because she came out to save her twice, and now she lost. I'm assuming that maybe this is going to wind up leading to a split between them, where maybe Tiffany, after losing her belt, kind of blames Chelsea, winds up turning on Chelsea, and it might be Tiffany that winds up taking that belt from Chelsea once she gets cleared, now that Tiffany is no longer United States champion. But I think she's going to have an issue with trying to help Chelsea and then wound up, losing her title for her efforts. I'm sure that will play into what might be a future heel turn for Tiffany Stratton, if we are reading this situation correctly. We will have to see. And finally, last night, it was supposed to be Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn in the main event. Now, earlier on, after the initial segment there, Cody is backstage with Nick Aldis, and that's when Nick Aldis makes it official for Sunday night's main event on September 6th. Cody Rhodes will be facing Randy Orton that night. Sammy is there all whining and goes, oh, look, Cody just asks for it and he gets it. And by the way, shout out to Cody, who was wearing like a San Diego Padres style Rhodes jacket. They were in Boston, but he was wearing Padres stuff. I liked it. I don't know if it was intended to be Padres, but the font Rhodes across the jacket was the same font that the Padres use, and it was brown and yellow. I know our colors here aren't great in San Diego, but brown and yellow is what Cody was wearing. I did dig his jacket. I thought that was cool. So Sammy just continues with his whining. Cody does not have time to hear his bullshit. Basically just tells him to do something about it. Let's go. Let's have a match tonight. Why don't you do something about it? Hit me in the face. Do something right now with your little carpal tunnel gout fist or whatever he said. And basically wants to do it tonight. And Cody storms off, and Sammy's like, man, I can't work. I got this fucking hand. And Aldis basically says, hey, if you suck it up and get in the ring and face Cody Rhodes tonight, I will give you the winner of CM Punk and Kevin Owens. Essentially, you will be the number one contender if you can go in the ring and beat Cody, because Sammy pointed out to Cody in that confrontation that he's the only guy to really pin Cody Rhodes clean in the ring since Cody has been there, and he's right. Not Roman, not Drew, not Punk, no one has been able to beat Cody clean as a sheet, right in the middle, and that's what Sami was able to do. So Aldis reminds him of that. Hey, if you go out there and do that again, then you are going to get a championship match against the winner of CM Punk and Kevin Owens and their championship match next week. So now it's time for the match. It's the main event. Cody Rhodes comes out and Sami Zayn gets screwed again because before Sami can make his entrance, Randy Orton slithers in from behind and attacks Cody Rhodes. They brawl all throughout the ringside area into the fans. And it was basically a repeat of the big angle they did right before WrestleMania. This winds up back in the ringside area after brawling in with the people. They get up on the announce table, and the steps are leaned up against it, and Cody is laying in the steps just like he was prior to WrestleMania when Orton, brained him there with the chair. And he's going to do the exact same spot, and that's when Cody gets his foot up, low blows Randy Orton, turns the tables, he gets Randy down. And mind you, all of the officials are out there during all of this. So when Randy Orton is about to murder Cody Rhodes, nobody is jumping up there to stop him. But the minute that Cody turns the tables and gets the chair, he lifts the chair to swing it on Orton. I think it was Daivari, one of the agents, jumps up and stops him. I'm like, well, why didn't they just stop Randy Orton then? and they just stopped Cody Rhodes. So Randy escapes with his life there. And we now have that match official for Sunday night's main event. And Sami Zayn now gets screwed again. So I think that's what's going to play into the finish next week between Punk and Owens. I think Sami is going to come out there and attempt to get involved. I don't know if he's going to deliberately try to help one person over the other, but whatever he does is going to wind up screwing Kevin Owens, I believe, and Punk will escape with the championship there due to a very disgruntled Sami Zayn coming in and messing up business yet again. Now, I don't think... next week, I think prior to that match, there's got to be some sort of a backstage segment where Sami is bitching at Aldis again. And Aldis should do the right thing. I mean, he's a reasonable general manager. So as long as Sami doesn't go out there and do something stupid to screw himself or get himself punished, Aldis should understand that Sami did not get a fair shake last week because the match wasn't allowed to happen. So the match... he should still get an opportunity to become number one contender. He shouldn't just outright lose that opportunity. But Sami's logic, the way Sami's character thinks, he's probably going to take it that way and maybe run out there and screw everything up next week for Owens and Punk. We will see. But that was pretty much your SmackDown last night. Not a bad show. I think they accomplished a lot. We had new champions crowned and a great little segment there 1 week out from Owens and Punk's big championship match. And, we had more between Cody and Orton, and now we have a date and location for their big match coming up in just a few weeks. So pretty decent SmackDown last night. Also, after SmackDown, there was a bunch of exclusives. There was one where The Miz and Kit Wilson, I had forgotten about them, actually, after, I think Miz killed them, right? I had forgotten about them. They were there insulting Matt Cardona. And then there was another exclusive where Nick Aldis informs Blake Monroe that she will finally have her first in-ring match on SmackDown next week against Julia. Meechin beat Julia on main event, by the way. So Julia, Blake has to win her first match, but man, Julia just does not win. She just goes out there to lose every match that she's in, and next week will be no different, as it is Blake Monroe's coming out party on SmackDown, and she will definitely be picking up the win there. Like I said, I only eyeballed Raw this week. I had a busy Monday. I was thinking about doing a review, but then I realized I probably wasn't going to be able to be home in time to get the show watched and be up here in time for a review, and I'm really glad I picked a good Raw to barely watch. I maybe watched 40% of the show, caught up on a little bit of it this week. But the main thing is what we're looking at here. The Braun Breaker and Obafemi confrontation. I really like that. I find that very, very interesting. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But I also want to mention that the big Lucha tournament, as we know, we talked about this last week as well. Roman Reigns will be facing the winner of a tournament of luchadors, 8-man tournament. He'll be facing the winner of that, I think, on September 14th in Mexico City on Raw. And they released the brackets of a handful of luchadors, and when you look at the brackets, it seems pretty clear, or at least WWE is giving themselves an opportunity to book a Penta and Rey Fénix final for this. And round one kicked off on Monday night. Penta defeated Laredo Kid, and the minute the bracket was announced, or revealed, I should say, most fans are expecting Penta to win this, and there's even been reports and rumblings around the wrestling news sites this week that WWE management expects him to be the winner of this as well. So Penta and Roman Reigns is probably going to be the match. I would think it has to be on September 14th. There's no other match they can do based on the field other than Penta and Roman Reigns. It's got to be that, and I believe it will be that. And I think Penta and Rey Fénix, if that turns out to be the final, that could be really interesting too, because now it gets Rey Fénix in the mix a little bit. And let's say, for argument's sake, that maybe the Usos or something, or somebody comes out during the Penta and Roman match, that might then prompt Rey Fénix to come out and help Penta. And we have, when is that show? I've got it written down. We have Worlds Collide coming up. It's in Chicago. It's in a few weeks. I don't have the date on it, but they could do the Usos versus the Lucha Brothers at Worlds Collide. If Fénix gets involved, the Usos get involved, whatever happens in the Penta and Roman match could lead to something like that at Worlds Collide. That could be really fun. So Penta and Roman feels like it absolutely has to be the direction there. It can't be any other match. It's got to be that. But like I said, I want to talk about this situation here. This all started with Braun Breaker's kind of body language. He still is, of course, one half of the tag team champions on Raw with Logan Paul. He inherited that belt when Reed went down, or no, when Logan went down, excuse me. So we've been watching Braun on TV lately, and he's kind of been a little bit detached. He's staring off into space. There was a backstage interview right before this whole thing went down with Theory and Logan and Maxine and Byron Saxton, and Breaker was completely ignoring everything that they were saying and doing, staring off into space, staring at the wall. Seems like he's got a lot on his mind. Already had a couple of interactions with Paul Heyman over the past couple of weeks. He's very insecure about this Obafemi stuff. And then we go to the ring for a one-on-one match between Austin Theory and Akira Tozawa. Theory, of course, beats Tozawa. Not too surprising there. And that's when Breaker gets in the ring to unleash some frustration, because backstage in that previous segment when they were talking with Byron and they all walk away, the Vision guys, Oba looks over at Byron and says, "Do you like Obafemi?" So Obafemi is on his mind. He's very concerned with how people in WWE view Obafemi. Do they view him as the future? Because Breaker had always been told that he's the future. So he sees that being threatened now, and that's starting to get to him. And after Theory beats Tozawa, Breaker gets in the ring, and he's going to spear Akira Tozawa, but that's when Obafemi's music plays. Oba comes out to confront Braun Breaker. Adam Pearce and all the security guards are immediately out there, and they basically just hold them back. And then later on, backstage, Braun finds Paul Heyman and asks Paul Heyman if he thinks Obafemi is the future. And Heyman goes, "I'm starting to think that you think that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep respecting Oba until you give me a reason not to." So I like that it sounds like they're heating Braun Breaker back up. There has been a lot of concern about WWE just not giving a shit about him anymore, or all of this potential that he seemed to have. And then he really got cooled off after losing to Seth Rollins and still just farting around with the vision. Paul Heyman doesn't even want anything to do with him anymore. And it seems like his stock has dropped. Same thing with Dominic. And it's been really weird. It's been a topic of conversation amongst a lot of fans. And WWE hears these and sees these complaints as well. And now they are leaning into it. And I think a lot of what Breakker has been doing, some fans have been taking Breakker's body language as he's really disgruntled. I think it was even Jonathan Coachman who said that there's like a Logan Paul and Braun Breakker beef, and there's not. Logan Paul's, say what you want about Logan Paul, like him or hate him, but he seems to be getting along with everybody in WWE. We haven't heard anybody come out and say anything negative about him or drop any negative cryptic hints that Logan Paul is a pain in the ass to deal with or nobody likes him. He seems to be fitting in there just fine, so he doesn't sound like somebody that really is going to have personal beefs with people a lot. But I swear to God, I think Jonathan Coachman is just watching Braun Breaker's body language and taking that as genuine and as real. I'm like, no, I think it's just WWE leaning into the decline that we have seen in Braun Breaker, and now his character starting to come to realize that. And now, after he thought he was going to be the guy to be main eventing WrestleMania, here comes this Obafemi that takes down Brock Lesnar and has taken all of his thunder away. So Breaker basically wants to battle it out with Obafemi to see who the true alpha on Monday Night Raw is. And it looks like we're going to get this match sooner rather than later, because I don't think they would be able to put these guys in in-ring confrontations with each other and then not deliver on a match pretty much instantly or immediately. So I feel like this might be another Sunday night's main event match. Maybe they actually do Braun Breaker and Obafemi. And in that case, you got to just continue to put over Obafemi. I guess what they're planning to do is Obafemi and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but that doesn't make any sense to me because that's way too predictable. And plus, Obafemi already has a secured, guaranteed title shot that he earned from King of the Ring. So what do you mean? What are you saying? He's going to cash that in at WrestleMania? Or is he going to have to win the Rumble, essentially giving him 2 title shots? Or is he going to win the Elimination Chamber? So right now, I've seen a lot of fans' opinions of Roman Reigns is obviously going to hold on to the World Heavyweight title until WrestleMania to drop it to Obafemi. I don't know. I feel like that's way too predictable. I think the longer Roman Reigns holds on to the belt, the more a guarantee it is that he's going to lose to Obafemi. And having a predictable match isn't a bad thing, but if you're already talking about this in August, by the time you deliver on it, we're really going to be expecting it, and it's not going to be really much of a surprise or a shock at all. So I think there's got to be some twists and turns in the road if WWE is really going to hold off crowning Oba as the world champion until WrestleMania. I have to ask, why did you even put him in the fucking King of the Ring to begin with then, if he just forfeited his own title shot? And apparently he can still cash this thing in. So I think Oba and Roman might have to happen sooner than that. I can't see them waiting all the way until WrestleMania unless Oba cashes in his title shot. The bloodline saves Roman's ass, and then Oba goes on to win the Royal Rumble and faces Roman again. So maybe Roman and Oba at WrestleMania is a rematch from a previous battle that they've had. And maybe bloodline guys either save Roman, save his title, help him win, whatever the case is. Oba already has a championship match. So another thing they could do here is if Braun Breaker winds up facing Obafemi, he could challenge Oba for the number 1 contender spot. Put your King of the Ring title shot on the line. Since you don't want it anyway, I want it. So if I beat you, I get that. Maybe that's what they do. But if this match is going to happen, Oba cannot be losing until he wins the world championship. So I don't think they're going to do Oba and Breaker and then Breaker's going to beat him. I think they're going to do Oba and Breaker and Oba's going to win and Breaker might win a future match between them. I mean, at this point, what I would do is I would have Oba win whatever match they have here first, and then go on to win the world championship, whatever that may be, against Roman or whatever at WrestleMania, and have Braun Breaker be the one to take the belt off of him. So I think maybe Breaker beats Oba for the world title a year from now. Maybe that's my guess. But cool to see Breakker doing something meaningful, because Breakker and Obafemi is a match I think we can all get behind for sure. Also on Monday Night Raw, Stephanie Vaquer had a little promo. Becky Lynch confronted her. They got into it a little bit before taking care of Liv Morgan. Nothing really to say there. Dragon Lee defeated Dominic Mysterio. They set this match up backstage. So Dominic Mysterio, who is the AAA Mega Champion, and will be defending against El Grande here in a couple of weeks, loses again. Loses again on TV. I don't know. WWE seems to like to have two completely different ways of booking people when they cross from AAA to the main roster. But with Dominic, it's so exaggerated. There's been even word and rumors and talk and chatter that maybe Dominic is in the process of being punished. I don't believe that's the case. Punished for what? What did he do? Plus, he's the AAA Mega Champion. He's working like crazy. I don't really think he's being punished. I think creative is stupid. So Dominic, the guy that beat the greatest of all time just this past October, right here in Petco Park, has been losing to Danhausen and getting electrocuted and just getting jobbed out every fucking week on TV, and it makes very, very, very little sense. So another annoying match there. After the match, Big Cass showed up to attack Dragon Lee. And some people have been pointing out something that I completely forgot, and that is the history between Big Cass and Carmella. And of course, Carmella is currently married to Raw announcer Corey Graves, and we've heard negative things about Big Cass before. We've heard he was a douche. I remember there was talk about him being MAGA and stuff like that, which, that only goes so far with me. If you're Val Venus, then you go fuck yourself. But if you're just MAGA and you vote that way, what the fuck can I do about that, So I don't really care if somebody's MAGA these days. That's a lame duck orange sack of cowardly shit that's going to be out of our lives and dead in just a couple of years anyway. I don't care. So I never really held that against Big Cass. But I wasn't aware of, there was some shit that went down between Big Cass and Carmella, and I guess it may have gotten physical. Some of the stories that I kind of read about, it couldn't have been that bad because WWE was willing to bring him back in, knowing maybe the bad blood that could exist there between Corey Graves, who is now married to Carmella, who used to date Big Cass. As a matter of fact, Cass was with Carmella when they were doing all the Total Divas shit and the reality show and stuff. So they were together. They were, it was documented that they were together, and I guess they had some sort of an ugly split. And now Big Cass is in the company, and Corey Graves has been relatively quiet. He called him a coward, another cowardly attack. But even in his debut, he didn't say a whole lot. So it's got to be weird. It's got to be awkward. I would assume in a situation like this where there's clearly maybe going to be some issues that these things have to be talked about and squashed. That's what happened when CM Punk came back. I think two of the first people that Punk made amends with was The Miz for the blood money covered dick shit. And I think Corey Graves as well. I think they had some issues and they squashed it. So maybe behind the scenes, Cass and Corey have, hey, you were cool. It's all good. I don't know. But people were bringing that up and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot with Cass being back that he is the ex of Carmella. And there was some drama there in the relationship. Again, I don't know the exact details, but it's enough to make the fans kind of analyze how Corey Graves is going to be behaving when Big Cass is on TV. So we'll see outside of I'm just attacking and killing people, if Big Cass is going to have an actual program with someone or not. And finally on Raw, Jesus Christ, man. It was Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa. This was set up in a really fun opening segment because Solo is hilarious. He was out in the crowd again, being all solo-y. And John with Jey Uso, who's in the ring, and they basically set up a main event match, Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa, with the stipulation that if Solo loses, he must join the Bloodline. And I don't think fans want that. But I think that's what fans are going to get because Jimmy Uso, during the match, jumped up on the apron and distracted Solo enough for Jey Uso to hit him with a super kick and a splash and pin his brother for the win. And now, per the stipulation, Solo Sikoa has to join the Bloodline. And a lot of fans are very, very upset by this. They didn't like that finish. Why would you do this? Solo was just starting to get over. The fans love him. Why would you derail it like this? I don't really think that they are. I think that WWE recognizes the popularity that Solo has been gaining as well, his charisma, and how the fans are reacting to him. I don't think they're going to snatch that away from the fans. I think this is all part of the story. I think unlike Jacob Fatu, Solo is not going to fall in line because Jacob really seems to adhere and follow, the Samoan family rules. And if you're going to have a bloodline rules match or tribal combat match or whatever, and you lose, you have to fall in line. You have no choice. And he basically operates like someone who has no choice in what he's doing, which I don't like because yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. I could not even imagine if one of my cousins demanded that I obey him and shit. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. No. And I just cannot see Solo doing the same thing that Jacob did. So we'll see this Monday on Raw what kind of in-ring segment they're going to have, or Solo's going to have to be out there and now with the Bloodline, but I just can't see him completely cooperating here. So we'll see how long it lasts, but I think that Solo is going to, barring a 1 to 3 week break here while they run this little angle, I think Solo will be back to his giggling, chuckling, entertaining self before long. There is no way they would allow him to start building some momentum. He's just starting to bubble and fans are really starting to sing his praises just to turn the spigot off. No, they're not going to do that. So I think Solo will continue to be entertaining. He's going to have to temporarily join the Bloodline and not get along with them and be defiant, and something's going to happen. Maybe they're doing this to create some sort of an in-ring segment to where he turns and leaves the Bloodline so he can get even more support from the fans. So I think fans are really, really upset and rolling their eyes at the main event, and I agree, but I also don't think in Solo's case that there's any way it can last. So I'm not too freaked out about that. So that's basically what we saw on Raw. Pretty weak show, pretty skippable show, to be honest with you. As we also talked about last week, Zilla Fatu wrapped up his indie duties and was expected to be joining WWE imminently, and he did. He joined WWE on Tuesday, showing up on NXT and attacking some people, and they were calling him Zilla Fatu, so it doesn't sound like they're going to change his name. His name's not going to be something ridiculous like Jimmy Tahiti or whatever the fuck. So it sounds like he's probably going to be Zilla Fatu. We have Jacob Fatu. They might still change his name. We don't know that totally yet, but looks like he's going to be Zilla. Now, I was more familiar with Jacob than I was Zilla. Are they brothers? Is Umaga Zilla's dad? Who's Jacob's dad? Umaga's Jacob's dad too, I think. I actually don't know. Are Zilla and Jacob brothers, or are they cousins, or are they father and son? I don't know what the fuck. Are they uncle and nephew? I don't even know. But we got another Samoan, another member of this family with Umaga tattoos, and I hope that he has a chance to develop himself in NXT before they just inevitably throw him right into the Bloodline, where it feels like you kind of get lost in the shuffle. It's getting too many of them now, where between the Bloodline and then the crossover faction of the MFTs. And I think that's why Jeff Cobb never really got on the map. He just was lost. He was almost invisible in the mob of Samoan family member wrestlers that we have in WWE. You don't want to bring these guys in just for the purposes of serving this Bloodline angle. You want to give them a legitimate chance to get over and connect and, try to make a name for himself or try to find some success. And he's got to have time and the ability to do that. So I hope that Zilla, whether he's main roster ready or not, he hangs out in NXT for a little while just to get himself rolling. just to see if there's anything there that the fans can latch onto or connect with before you bring him to the main roster, and then he just winds up having to fall in line with Roman Reigns as well. The only good thing about this is if you do have some sort of an injury, Jacob Fatu goes down or something like that, you got another one you can bring in there. And apparently there's another Uso brother that's on the verge of debuting as well or showing up, and he looks just like the rest of them. Jay and Jimmy and Solo, they all got that same face, and now there's a fourth one that's got that face. And so this family is crazy. There's so many of them. So all the best to Zilla, rooting for him hard. I feel like it's both a blessing and a curse to be a part of this family. It's a blessing because if you want to become a wrestler, you can be one. As long as you don't completely suck, they're going to hire you, if you're part of that Samoan family. And that's a positive. But on the negative end of that, a lot of times now, the more of these family members debut, it only feels like there's one role for them, and that's to be associated with the bloodline, to be associated with the reason that they got hired in the first place. And I don't know if that's entirely, totally fair to all of them. So best of luck to Zilla. We'll see what he does. We'll see how he does and how long he hangs in NXT. And if he's going to be thrust right into the main event picture the same way Cruz Montana was, because I believe he attacked him. So anyway, welcome to WWE, Zilla Fatu. All right, let's talk about this past week's Vegas Dynamite. Last week's show was way better. I mean, of course, Grand Slam Mexico, of course, it's going to be awesome. But I felt like this week was off to a worse start. Like Raw was so weak. And then Wednesday's Dynamite, it wasn't like it was a bad show or anything, but it was another tiny ass arena. Less than 1,000 people, I think, were there, or maybe a little over 1,000 people. And that doesn't bother me. I don't mind small arenas because intimate arenas can be fun. There's a lot of energy in those places, and that can be a positive. And I like that AEW runs different looking buildings, and I don't mind that they'll run a 900 seat building. I don't give a shit. Whatever makes for good quality TV, I don't care. But if you're going to run a venue that small, the fans have got to show up, and I don't feel like they did in Vegas. I mean, it's Vegas. Maybe they're all just tired and been partying all week or whatever, or gambling all night long. But the crowd did not have a lot of energy to them. There was an energy there that they were lacking, I felt. And it affected the show to where it was just, to me, it was just a show. It was a wrestling show that happened. Sort of. We did get some interesting things happen, including a Jericho reunion, as you see right here. But one of the things I actually did not like on the show was the interaction between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Now, Will Ospreay's promo itself was great. Talked about his grandfather dying and, his personal journey. And Will Ospreay, I love his voice. I love his cadence. I love how he speaks. He definitely comes off as someone who's enthusiastic and genuine about everything he does. And this was no different in this promo. Of course, the Callis family comes out there to attack him. Kenny Omega, his opponent at All In, comes out to make the save. And what is going on with Omega? What is he doing? What is he mimicking? Is there some sort of a reference here that I'm not getting? The way he cuts his promo or the way he speaks to Will Ospreay was the opposite of how Ospreay was speaking into the mic. Ospreay was talking like a person, like a genuine human person, where Omega was like, "This is not the man I want to face it All In." What are you doing? Is this some video game anime shit or whatever? They're all into Dragon Ball Zs and stuff. I don't know what any of that stuff is, but I feel like this is something like that. Kenny Omega is emulating some sort of a character, and it comes off very, very cheesy. You're not the man I want. Like, ugh. I didn't like it at all. Kenny sounded weird. What's going on with your voice? Why are you talking like that? Just talk like a normal person. So it was weird. It came off weird. Maybe if you're an anime fan, you loved it. You got the reference. You understood what the hell he was doing. I did not. I just didn't like it. And it was like such night and day too, because you have Ospreay, who's, on the mic, just being his Billy Ospreay self, and coming across, really genuine and authentic. And then you've got Kenny, who seems like he's playing a character of some kind, and it just felt off. So I didn't really like that. I'm still looking forward to the match. Ospreay and Kenny is going to be awesome at All In, but I don't know what was going on with Kenny's voice or what he's trying to do or who he's trying to emulate or what the fuck's going on there, but I didn't like any of that really at all, to be honest. We also had MJF. He defeated Speedball Mike Bayley and Nick Wayne in a three-way. This was the three-way to determine the number 2 spot in the Casino Gauntlet at All In. MJF is still out there with that Triple B. I don't like this. Again, I'm the only real champion type of thing is something we've seen way too often. And in MJF's case, they're just doing it to do it because he lost the title. It's not like a CM Punk situation where he never really lost the belt and he came back with the X spray painted on it, or when Shawn Michaels in 93 was suspended and refused to relinquish the IC title, and then him and Razor had the ladder match for 2 belts at WrestleMania 10. There's lots of situations or situations in the past where you've had a champion come back with the belt because he never lost it. This is not the case with MJF. And you can't even make the argument that he didn't lose it clean. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Think about how many matches, including championship matches, MJF has won under shady circumstances. So the fact that he's out there with that belt makes very little sense. I know it's a custom belt. I know it's his Triple B and all of that, but it's another thing I don't like. I don't think he should be out there carrying that belt around. You know, Kenny is the world champion. Kenny beat you for the title. So to be out there with your belt, heel or not, I understand you're a heel and you have to be a douchebag. I understand that. But I think that is unnecessary. And MJF shouldn't be out there with his Triple B. He should break out that Triple B whenever he's champion, wear it proudly. But when you're not champion and after you lose the belt, still carrying it around, number one, makes you look like an asshole, which is the point, but also I think it does diminish your world title a little bit. And this is a trope that we've seen a lot. You know, we've already seen this so many times with 2 champions. Fuck, I mean, CM Punk and John Cena had one of the most famous matches of all time because of this. You know, with Punk leaving, John Cena wins the title, and then Punk comes back and says, oh, no, I'm the real champion. They got the 2 belts. We've seen this all the time, and MJF legitimately lost the championship on pay-per-view in a main event and still walking around there calling himself champion. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. We had Jay White. Or actually, before I get into that, let's skip around here a little bit. These 2 fellers on the screen right here. Chris Jericho wrestled Kevin Knight for the TNT Championship on Wednesday night. Big Show was on commentary, and during the match, after a top rope dive to the outside, Jericho sits in the lap of Big Show, and they share a little moment together. Jericho, I love that he's trying to be like the old rock and roll guy, but the wrestler version. Is he trying to be Keith Richards or Mick Jagger or fucking Rod Stewart? You know, I feel like the worse his body is, the more he likes it because he's getting old. He's way past dad bod now. He's getting into like Keith Richards bod, and I think he likes it. He's a rock and roll guy. He doesn't mind. He doesn't care what he looks like. He's just out there having a good time, and he sat in Big Show's lap. I hated Jericho. I know they loved their time together. I didn't like Jericho. I didn't like the purple shit Big Show was wearing, that weird goatee he had. I never cared about the team. But Jericho and Big Show apparently really enjoyed their time together, whatever year that was. When was that, guys? 2010-ish or something like that? 2011? When they were together. So that was a nice little moment between them. Jericho did not win the TNT title, thank God. Crash landing by Kevin Knight for the win, pinning Jericho and retaining the championship. I did like that. Let's see, what else can I mention on Dynamite? Oh yeah, I guess we should talk about the 2 Continental Cup tournament matches. I don't like this thing at all. They've got a whole list of fucking rules for this thing. I'm already confused about the Continental Cup shit as it is with the cup and ever since that one year when like Eddie defended it in the tournament, and I've just kind of lost track now of if you're the champion going into the tournament and you defend it there, or if there's a new belt every time. I don't know. And now there's a Continental Cup tournament, which initially I thought was going to be a tournament to determine Moxley's challenger at All In, but instead it's a 16-man tournament, blind drawing, so no brackets, and Moxley is in it, which means every time he has a match in this thing, the title is going to be on the line. And he had a match on Dynamite in the main event against Jack Perry, which meant if he would have lost that, Perry would have then been the Continental Champion, finishing out the rest of the tournament, and the finals are going to be at All In. Well, the first match we had on Dynamite was Jay White defeating David Finlay. One of the many rules in the Continental Cup is there's no outside interference, which really helped, Jay White and Finlay not have to worry about the respective crews of these guys. And same with Jack Perry, didn't have to worry about the Death Riders and that bloody brawl that he had with Jon Moxley in the main event that wasn't half bad. Moxley beat Jack Perry by choking him out in a really bloody match, and that is what I believe is going to be the finals. I mentioned that when the field was first announced and we read through the names. I said, it's got to be Moxley and Jay White. So I would love for Jay White to beat Jon Moxley at All In for the championship. That would be tremendous. Couple of other things real quick before we get into the good stuff on Dynamite. Chris Statlander defeated Viva Van after the match. Mick Foley came to the ring and informed Statlander that next week on Dynamite, there's going to be a 4-way match for the TBS title. Maya World versus Statlander versus Persephone versus Hikaru Shida. And speaking of them, Persephone and Thunder Rosa, Maya World. And what was the tag match? It's Maya and Thunder Rosa defeated Persephone and Shida. That's what it was on Wednesday night in a tag match. And there's going to be a 4-way for the TBS next week. Also, I liked this. Don Callis informed Kyle Fletcher that he will be facing Kazuchika Okada at All In for the championship. So that is big news. That's something that we thought we were going to get anyway. And they announced that in a backstage segment. Kyle Fletcher was not happy about it whatsoever and kind of stormed off a little bit mad because it's not just against Okada. It's against Takeshita. It's a 3-way. And so when Fletcher was like, don't tell me I got to face, I think he said Takeshita. And he's like, yeah, but don't worry. He's not the only one you're going to face. It's going to be Okada as well. And basically, this is Don Callis' way of ensuring that no matter what happens in this match, that international championship stays in the Callis family. So Fletcher, none too pleased about that. And the match that we were expecting to see, the 3-way between those guys, is now happening. That should be real good at All In. I'm looking forward to that. I absolutely loved the Mercedes Moné attack on Willow Nightingale during her sit-down interview with Renee Paquette. I thought that was really good. Something out of a fucking horror movie, to have this sexy babe covered in glitter attack you and beat you with an inch of your life. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed that. And I really hope that there is more than meets the eye to this Willow and Mercedes match at All In. I really hope that Willow did not win the championship at Redemption to simply be a placeholder, a transitional champion to pass that belt off to Mercedes Moné. And after she, kind of pinned Mercedes last week, I was not feeling too good about my hope that Willow would actually hold on to the championship, but I still think there's a chance. We will see. We're going to have to do our predictions here in the next week or two ahead of the show. So I got to give that some thought before I officially predict it. But I think Willow has a chance to actually retain her championship. And the big thing I want to talk about on Dynamite was the in-ring segment between the new trios tag team champions, Hangman Page and Brodito. They were out to the ring to basically have their victory celebration, and that's when they were interrupted by a returning Swerve Strickland. who's coming out to the ring to confront the Trios champions. Now, one of the men on that team is Hangman Page. Hangman Adam Page, who Swerve has a ton of history with, sounds like they might be reigniting their feud and their rivalry here. And, Swerve talks about Hangman and his inability to challenge for the title anymore. And, what are you even going to do now and whatnot? And there's a lot of jaw-jacking here and a lot of, rehashing the history between them. That's when the demand comes out. Ricochet and the Gates lost the titles just 1 week after winning them. So they're out there and basically telling Swerve to get the fuck out of there. They're going to be getting the next title shot or whatever. Swerve goes to leave the ring. He kind of gets in Ricochet's face a little bit. And as he's walking away, he says, hey, Brody might be out here doing all the barking, but Ricochet, you're the one who's a little bitch or whatever. And then they try to pull him apart and whatnot. And so a lot of fans were pointing out, like, why would Swerve be coming out there? Why would Swerve be coming out there to get involved in the Trios championship situation, especially when Brodito, you would think, would have challengers right there waiting in the demand. Now Swerve is throwing his kind of name or hat in the ring a little bit, so to speak. And a lot of fans couldn't help but guess that this could be where AEW is going to be bringing in the New Day. Except they're not going to be called the New Day. It's going to be Kofi and Creed could be coming in, and it's starting to look like, because we know that they're coming into AEW, they should be there imminently and basically any day now. And when they get there, how are they going to show up? Is it going to be on TV? Is it going to be on a show where they don't really advertise them, but the fans know they're going to be there? It might be a situation like that. So right now it's looking like it could be All In when we see Kofi and Creed. And if it turns out that Swerve says something like, hey, at All In, it'll be Hangman and Brodito, the demand against me and two buddies and two surprise buddies. You could just do it like that. That way everybody is going to know who it's going to be, but you don't have to advertise it. You can advertise Swerve and two mystery partners. So I'm not sure if this is where I would have chosen to bring New Day back, coming in to challenge for the Trios titles when the Trios titles are so meaningless in the company. But, you still got some big names involved there. Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, Ricochet, guys like that. So if this is where they're bringing them in, it sounds like that's pretty likely, at least right now, that maybe it's going to be a three-way for the Trios titles at All In, and Kofi and Creed will be the partners of Swerve Strickland. I can live with that, even though maybe it's not where how I would have brought them in, but it might be a good way to kind of introduce them to AEW, and then whatever matches they do in the future with Cope and Christian, with the Young Bucks, all that can happen down the line. But maybe they have plans for All In, and they're going to debut at All In. So I would just do that, I think. I would treat that a lot like, the CM Punk debut. They sold out that United Center without ever saying his name once, but everybody knew he was going to be there. And I think if you had Swerve announce two partners that he's going to reveal at the show, that could move a few more tickets, and maybe get them a little bit closer to that 50,000 range, which I don't think they're going to hit. I think they're close to 40 right now, but getting 10,000 more people in the next 2 weeks, that's probably not going to happen. But I think knowing that the New Day is going to debut in AEW, all but confirming that to us without actually saying it, should be enough to at least sell a few more tickets for Wembley Stadium. So it's looking right now, at least, that that's where they're going to debut. It's also very possible that they bring them out on TV prior to that. I think it would be more fun just to debut them at the pay-per-view and one of those things where it's going to be them. But you never know. They could come out as a surprise next week or the week after, even on the go home. You don't know yet. Also, Kofi has filed some trademarks for KSM and his real name, which I don't have in front of me now, but it's Kofi something Menza. So he's filed trademarks for both of those. So it sounds like he's going to be going by Kofi, which is his real name, so he can keep Kofi. But Xavier Woods is going to have to go by Austin Creed. So they're going to be known probably as Kofi and Creed. And I don't know if they're going to have a new name. I've heard Daybreak mentioned. There's a whole list of possible names. Daybreak's the only one I remember now. But I saw like a tweet with like 4 names. I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to have a name. But Kofi is going to be able to keep Kofi. That's good. Kingston, there's no reason for him to keep that. So he'll be going by, I guess, his real name or by his initials from now on, KSM. So Kofi and Creed due in to AEW imminently, any day now. And looks like that All In is probably going to be where we see them. Let's talk about, too, speaking of AEW and people showing up in AEW, we have more Bayley news. Now, we've already talked about Bayley. We've talked about her situation. We've talked about her contract. And I've been talking for months, ever since the beginning of the year, that that Bayley's someone that I would like to see make the jump. Go to AEW. I think it would be fun for her. I think it would be fun for the fans, fresh opponents. She has friends there. Seems like her heart is already kind of there, as she's been to AEW shows before to support Sasha. Or to support Mercedes, excuse me. And you heard, by the way, speaking of that, when Mercedes was beating the hell out of Willow, you could hear, because the crowd was so quiet, you could hear someone in the audience going, "Sasha, come home! Sasha, come home!" Jesus, man. Touch a boob, will ya? Fucking Christ. But anyway, Bayley's got friends like Mercedes. She's got friends like Statlander there. Feels like she's already kind of hinting that she's heading to AEW. And like I said, I hope that she does. Well, this week she posted a video on social media, a training video, where she used a song that was called All In. And the caption said, "All or nothing, baby." So it was just a training video, but it used the song All In, which was interesting. And the reports are that some in WWE found it eyebrow raising. Oh, really? And it didn't land well with everyone. Well, boo fucking who? Bayley's video didn't land well with me. Me. Gives a fuck. What are you going to do about it? She's leaving, probably. So with Bayley, there's been a lot of talk about her contract. We don't know exactly when it's up. End of 2026, early 2027 is the belief. So between now and then, Bayley, maybe she just feels like she's definitely going to go. I believe that Bayley probably knows what she's going to do. It's just a matter of her waiting out her contract or whatever. I'm sure WWE obviously is going to try to re-sign her. They're going to try to lock her up. But New Day is leaving because they reportedly refused to take a 50% pay cut. And so Bayley has a lot of leverage here. She's in a unique position to where this contract that she does or does not sign could be an industry changer, because what a lot of people are talking about, someone of Bayley's caliber, the next time one of these people has a contract that comes up in WWE, they need to push for a no-cut clause, because what we've been seeing is WWE releasing everybody before their contracts are up so they don't have to pay them all the money. And I know there are some talents that probably have no cuts, but I think this Bayley contract could really set a precedent for what to do in the future, because WWE is going to insist that these things are in there, and they're going to want the ability to cut you at any time. And so now when you've got a talent that's well-known, that's well-liked, and can leverage themselves against your competition, it's going to force them to maybe concede some of these things, to where when the next talent's contract comes up, someone on Bayley's level, they can ask for the same thing. Because TKO, not only do they not want to pay the wrestlers through their contracts, they're actively trying to pay them less. And that's going to be really hard to do when your competitor is a billionaire. That's why WWE is working so hard to try to stomp out AEW so they don't have to worry about this, and they can just control every single aspect of a wrestler's livelihood with their bullshit contracts. Now, Bayley has a chance to really change things for a lot of talents. And if she's able to demand a no-cut clause and they give it to her, she may have to stay. It just depends. You don't know with talent. It might come down to money. It might come down to, personal goals or maybe where Bayley is in her life and her career and everything she's done in WWE. If I'm sitting in Bayley's shoes, AEW is looking very attractive to me compared to what I would be doing if I stayed in WWE. AEW, Mercedes is there. I've got friends there. I can do all sorts of great things there if I go, but if I stay, I'll just still be in WWE jobbing to Lyra, I guess. I don't know. So I feel like if Bayley's weighing her options, that AEW is looking like the better spot. But either way, she has a chance here to really, affect how future contracts are written and structured. So I hope that Bayley, wherever she goes, if she goes to WWE, I hope she gets everything that she wants. I hope that they are forced to concede and give her and accommodate her in these ways that she wants. If not, she's definitely going to go, but I kind of think that she's going to go anyway. And as a fan, I hope she does. As a fan, it's something that I want to see. I think Bayley and AEW would be fun. I don't want to see everybody go to AEW. Sometimes when somebody's contract is up in AEW, I don't really want them to see them in WWE, and sometimes I do. And this is one of those cases where I'm like, hell yeah, I want to see Bayley in AEW. It was like when Big Bill left AEW. I'm like, he's got to go back to WWE. Look at him. How can he not go back there? He should go back there. And now he's back there. So Bayley, it's like the same thing. I'm curious, like, what kind of advice, if any, CM Punk is giving her. They're buddies. Is she going to ask Phil, should I go to AEW? He's like, no, fuck no. You see what that place did to me? I don't know. I don't know who she's talking to, or if she's getting advice, or if she's just thinking about it herself, if she's still weighing her options, or if she sees the writing on the wall. It might be in Bayley's case, she might be like, okay, I want these specific things, and if WWE gives them to me, I will stay. Or she could have the mindset of like, I don't really care what they give me. Like, they're going to have to offer me an insane deal to convince me to stay. And that's what I believe is the case. I believe Bayley intends to leave. I believe Bayley wants to go to AEW. But she can't really do any negotiations, at all. I mean, obviously you can go in between channels, and if she wants to talk to Mercedes, who then talks to Tony Khan, there's nothing anybody can do about that type of tampering, so those are conversations that take place. Friends talk and, cross company lines all the time. So she probably has a pretty good idea of what she can get from AEW. Her and Mercedes are good friends. Do you think she doesn't know what Mercedes makes? She knows exactly how much money Mercedes makes because Mercedes has told her. So she's probably like, I want to make that too. So in Bayley's mind, in my mind, I feel like she's probably made her mind up that she's going to go. But if WWE throws some obscene amount of money at her or gives her some concessions in her contract that are just too good to pass up, then she'll probably have to stay. But I think that's very, very unlikely. WWE, like we talked about, it's the brand. Nobody buys tickets just for one person anymore. So Bayley, even though WWE, I'm sure, would love to keep her because of her history in the company, because of, the legacy that she's created there. But at the same time, losing Bayley isn't going to do anything to them. It doesn't matter at all. So, this is a woman that they screwed out of a WrestleMania match a couple years ago that has spent plenty of time off of television. It's not like they need to have her on every show. So, from WWE standpoint, they could easily afford to lose Bayley. Easily. Nothing's going to happen. Their business is going to maintain. Bayley will be a needle mover a little bit in AEW, sure, but her loss isn't going to be enough to affect WWE negatively. So I think that in Bayley's case, she should really ask for the world, and just see if WWE gives it to her. Like, look, I don't have any intention of staying in WWE, so I'm going to ask for some crazy shit that I know they're not going to agree to. And then if they do, then maybe she's got a decision to make. But you think about the schedule, you think about the money that she's going to make. Tony Khan's not going to cut her. The money that she's going to make over there, the schedule she's going to have, the personal happiness and fulfillment she might find by being there with her friends and getting a fresh, place to work, new scenery, fresh opponents after spending so many years in WWE. And then maybe in a few years, her and Mercedes go back and go in the Hall of Fame or something. But I'm kind of hoping that Bayley, we see her in AEW, but whatever she wants to do, I support her. If she stays in WWE for the next 10 years, hell yeah, I'm a Bayley fan. I'll continue to cheer for her. But going to AEW would be fun. It's always fun when people jump ship. That's why I think the tribalism in wrestling is so stupid, and it's among the wrestling fans' worst type of fans. The biggest losers, the biggest fucking virgins are the only ones really tribal, because the rest of this can be fun, because that's the way it was back in WWE and WCW days when people were jumping ship left and right. It was exciting to kind of keep track of this and watch it happen. And now we got a couple of big ones happening here with the New Day about to pop in, AEW at any moment, and Bayley probably in a few months. So that's all fun. So all the best to Bayley, all the best in whatever she decides to do with her career and her future. But as a fan, I'm really hoping that I get to see her in AEW because she rules. Did y'all see this shit with AJ Styles? This is like maybe a week old now, but there was some drama involving AJ Styles' son, who is now starting to hit the indie scene as a worker. And apparently he's pretty good, too. Well, Natalya did an interview. I think it was Fightful that posted a transcript of one little tidbit from the interview, where she talked about working with AJ Styles' son, being impressed with him, and saying that he wants to pay his dues. Independent wrestler Eric Cannon chimed in with this tweet, which said, and I quote, "As someone who watched this kid skirt away from helping with a single thing at this very show, I'd just like to say LO fucking L." So basically what he's referencing here is AJ's son didn't help set up the ring, didn't help set up the chairs. Whenever there was time to do something like that, he seemed to magically disappear. I guess that's the insinuation or the accusation here. And AJ Styles then responds to that by saying he was paid to wrestle at GCW, not help you put up and take down the ring. That sounds like your job. You just sound like a jealous douche. And this is a guy that's worked with AJ Styles years ago before. Eric Cannon's been in the biz for a long time, and he's never made it to the big time, and he's got a big problem with this kid apparently not setting up chairs and whatnot. So the best I can do, the only thing I can do here really, is to try to, compare this to my life, compare this to the restaurant business. And as someone who's been a boss and has had to manage young people and stuff, I always, look for someone who has, good work ethic, who doesn't have this like born lazy mentality to them. And a lot of kids can, just be a little bit lazy and whatnot. And that's just what you expect. And when you find someone out there that is enthusiastic, that does want to put the hard work in, those are the ones that are going to succeed. In AJ Styles' kid's case, if you're an indie wrestler, if you're a young wrestler coming up, those are the things you're expected to do. You got to go to a show and shake every fucking person's hand there. And if you don't, you can be blacklisted. You got to do everything right. It's such a weird goddamn business where you got to go shake everybody's hand, follow all these stupid rules, and you got to set up the ring and take down the ring and whatnot, and everybody's expected to do their part. I can respect that because I work in a team mentality. In the restaurant on a busy night, everybody has to work together for it to be successful. If we don't, if we have a weak link, then that stuff starts to become apparent, and it can fuck your night up, can fuck your business up. So I completely get that. But unfortunately, in this world, there are going to be some exceptions. And I hate to tell you, Eric Cannon, if you are AJ Styles' son, then if you're AJ Styles' kid, then you're already going to have a foot in the business. That's the way it used to be. Back in the day, the only way you could get into the business is if you were born into it, or you had a family member, or your father. If you have a famous wrestling dad, you are basically guaranteed a wrestling job if you want one. You can get in. That's the way it always was. It was a very elite club. Nowadays, it's not quite as like that anymore. There's millions of wrestling schools. There's millions of independent promotions, and there's lots of, and the business now is more geared towards all different sizes. Now you can be 160 fucking pounds and be a wrestler. You could not be 160 pounds in 1989 and be a wrestler. You just couldn't, unless you were a jobber or something like that. So you've got a lot of people now being let in the business, and those people are all expected to pay their dues. I understand that. I don't know how true this is. If AJ Styles' kid is running away and hiding from any manual labor, then that's something he's going to have to work on. You can't be lazy. And even if you are lazy, you have to present yourself as someone who's not. And if you've got to set up a few chairs or set up a ring just to make the people watching you, think that you want to pay your dues or whatever, then that's, what you have to do. But in this kid's case, he doesn't have to do shit. He's AJ Styles' son. And I've told this story before too, back when I've managed restaurants my whole life. And I managed an Italian restaurant back in North Carolina. And this is a trick my boss taught me. And the whole front was glass. I could see the whole front parking lot from the front of the restaurant. So if I scheduled an interview for someone to come in to be a server or something like that, we had a trash can right outside the door. I would take like a couple empty beer cans from outside the trash, lay them on the ground right next to the trash can. And I would sit at the bar and I would watch the interviewer pull in. And if they came to the door and they bent, because it's right in front of the door, you can't miss it. If you don't pick up these cans, you have to actively step over them. So if they bent down to pick those cans up and throw them in the trash, they were basically instantly hired. Because that right there tells me that you weren't born lazy and you do have some fucking common sense and work ethic to you. And if they stepped right over the beer cans, that wasn't going to bode too well for them. I'm even at the restaurant now, I constantly harp on the young staff, especially if you see shit on the floor, pick it up. If there's somebody drops a receipt or a piece of paper or there's some broken glass on the floor. If I see a young support staff or busser step over that, we're going outside and having a chat. Like, why did you step over? It was right there in front of you, right in your line of sight. Don't pretend you didn't see it. Why did you not bend over and pick that up? Because you're young and lazy. So I understand that kids can be young and lazy and clueless. They don't understand common sense shit. I get that. But there's also going to be some kids that you just can't fuck with. I've had to be the boss of multiple owners' kids. Just 5 years ago, I was the boss of my owner's daughter. And even though I was her boss, I couldn't really fire her. And I certainly wouldn't want to yell at her. And she was a little bit lazy. But unfortunately, my hands are tied there. She's the owner's kid. What can I do? Customers liked her. That's all I cared about. I would have liked it if she was maybe a little bit less lazy, but she's the owner's kid. What can you do? If Anthony Bourdain's kid came for an interview and he stepped over those beer cans and didn't throw them away, I'm hiring him because he's Anthony Bourdain's kid. So there's going to be exceptions. I understand you got to pay your dues. You got to do everything right. You got to show that you're willing and eager and enthusiastic to work and learn and pay your dues. I get that. But you got to understand that some people are just going to have advantages that others aren't. And I forgot somebody said something to me on Twitter the other day when I was talking about Zilla Fatu, and I was like surprised that they're not changing his name, and somebody immediately chimed, that's because he's a Nepo baby and whatever he says goes. I'm like, really? Well, then why isn't Roman Reigns Joe Anoa'i? If he's just some Nepo baby who's in charge, why is he Roman Reigns? Why are the Usos and not the Fatus? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, so, and I know that term Nepo baby, wrestling fans are obsessed with two terms, Nepo baby and cuck. I don't understand it. I don't hear these terms anywhere else in the world, but wrestling fans love them. And I'm like, when it comes to the Nepo baby stuff, I'm like, how long have you been watching wrestling? Nepotism is less common now than it used to be. Yeah, a lot of wrestlers are having kids that are joining the business, but that's the way it's always been. And for the longest time, that's the only way it was. If you didn't have a family member in wrestling, good luck finding a way in. Now, anybody can find their way in. So for wrestling fans, especially young fans, to get all uppity or mad about nepotism, you don't even know what nepotism is. You have seen nothing yet, or you've not even seen the worst of it. David Flair, David Sammartino. Think about how many horrible wrestlers have gotten an opportunity because their parents were wrestlers. Nowadays, you at least have to be good. You can't just be the son of a wrestler or the daughter of a wrestler and automatically get signed. Look at Brian Pillman Jr. He ain't never getting to the main roster. I'm sorry, Lexus King is just not going to make it. He's just not. And he's not, I mean, they could bring him up, I suppose, or whatever, but it just doesn't feel like he's ever going to get there. So if nepotism just automatically just gave you everything, we would see Brian Pillman Jr. as WWE champion right now. It's not a guarantee that you're going to find success. It just gets you that foot in the door, where years ago, 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have to have much talent. If you were Ric Flair's son, they're going to put you on TV. Even fucking Little Reed was on television taking down Eric Bischoff when he was like 11 years old. So you didn't even have to do anything back in the day if you were the son of a wrestler. Nowadays, you are expected to work and expected to be good if you want to be on television. So you got to kind of pick your battles and judge each situation on a case-by-case basis. And in this specific situation, if AJ Styles' kid, I don't know how old he is, if he's 19 and he wasn't setting up the chairs, instead of handling it on social media, be a leader. Lead by example. Set an example, Mr. Eric Cannon. I don't know anything about you, but your tweet made you sound immature. And AJ, his response didn't help his kid either. AJ should keep his nose out of it too. This is something that should have been handled privately. If there's, Eric Cannon should have went and found AJ Jr. Hey, come here. I just want to talk to you for a minute. I think it would be a really good idea just to show the other guys that you were here, and you are dedicated to the craft. Maybe set up the ring, maybe help clean up and break down a little bit. Just a little piece of advice. You might want to do that. It'll make you look good, type of thing. Or just, give advice. If you're somebody that's older and more mature, or you're twice the age of someone, that's your job, is to kind of educate them. Not yell at them or berate them on social media. Pull them aside. I've done that plenty of times. I got a couple of 18-year-old busboys that I've had to say, come here for a second. You can't do that. You put your fingers all in that woman's glass. Use your head, type of thing. That's all you got to do. And they're, oh man, fuck, I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry, bro. Everything's bro with the kids today. I'm so sorry, bro. It's okay, man. It's all right. Just learn. You got to teach. Don't yell, teach. And then if none of that sticks, then you start venturing into that. But in terms of like judging a kid's work ethic and whatnot, I'm not reading too much into somebody not setting chairs up. I don't give a shit if people set up chairs or not. I believe that you have to learn the business from the ground up. I believe you need to know how to set up a ring and how to build one and how to set up chairs and all that. But Eric Cannon painting this kid as a lazy piece of shit might not be completely accurate. And I think that's kind of where some of the unfairness happened. But just unfortunate. Eric Cannon and AJ Styles both needed to shut up in that situation, because none of that was doing AJ Styles' son any favors at all. At all. Speaking of nepotism, the lovely Aaliyah Mysterio, daughter of Rey Mysterio, who we saw on TV 5 or 6 years ago when she was only like 19, when she was dating Buddy Matthews, remember? She has been seen and has been training at the Performance Center, and apparently she is listed on WWE's internal roster. So Aaliyah Mysterio should be joining her brother Dominic, shortly here if everything works out for her. I don't know what kind of an athlete she is, how good she's going to be. But again, she's at the PC training. If she absolutely fucking sucks, they're not going to put her out on TV. They're just not. They might make her a character. She's a very pretty girl. They could put her out there and like they did with her 5 or 6 years ago. But now she's going to be training to be a wrestler. So we will see how she progresses. We'll keep an eye on her debut if she hits TV. WWE did file a trademark for today. Who was it for? It was for Andy something. Andy Summers, A-N-D-I, so like a girl's name, Andy Summers. This could be Aaliyah Mysterio's new name. I would keep her a Mysterio. If Dominic is Dominic Mysterio, why would you change her? I understood they changed The Rock's daughter to Simone to Ava, but if we already know Aaliyah, sort of, we did see her on television during the pandemic days, and she's Ray's kid, and his other kid is using his last name, why wouldn't Aaliyah? Why wouldn't she be billed as Rey Mysterio's daughter? Unless it's a personal decision of hers to find her own way. But we're all going to know that she's Rey's daughter anyway, and the announce team is going to want to mention that. So I would just leave her Aaliyah Mysterio. We will see. I don't know who Andy Summers is going to be. Hopefully it's not. It's not Mysterio. And best of luck to her. Finally, what else can we talk about here? I think that was pretty much the end of my notes. I want to talk about a couple of shows coming up as well. I mean, listen to what we have here. We've got TNA Lockdown coming up on the 23rd, which I believe is a week from tomorrow, which means if it's going head-to-head with Watch Along time, I don't know if we're going to do a Watch Along next week. I think we'll still try to do one. So we got TNA Lockdown coming up on the 23rd. Then we have, on the 31st or 30th is All In the following week. Then the week after that, we have Sunday night's main event on Sunday, September 6th, my birthday. After that, we got Triple Mania on September 11th and 13th. That's where it's going to be Dom versus El Grande Americano for the AAA Mega Championship, which I expect El Grande to win. Then shortly after that, we have Worlds Collide in Chicago, which we do have confirmation that CM Punk will be on the show. WWE released an entire list of Summer of Punk tour dates, and Worlds Collide is on there. And like I said, I would love to get Usos and Lucha Bros on that show, and they could set that up in the Penta and Roman match in Mexico in a month, I guess. That would be pretty badass. And the final thing I'll mention, I guess, is I did take a look at this week's Dark Side of the Ring episode on Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. Really enjoyed this episode because I grew up with Orndorff, and I legitimately thought he had a chance to beat Hulk Hogan for the championship in 1986. I was worried. I was watching that morning. I think it was a Saturday or Sunday, whatever it was, Superstars or Challenge, when Orndorff turned on Hogan against Bundy and Studd. I was sitting on my living room floor. My mom was in the recliner, and I knew it too. I knew it was going to happen. I knew he was going to turn on him. They were kind of teasing it. And I enjoyed kind of reliving all of that. They talk about how Orndorff got started, another Florida boy. B. Brian Blair is on all these documentaries, all these Dark Side of the Rings, because of how many ties he has to Florida wrestling and all the people he knows. And, they had his son on there, and his son was a little strange, I think. But in terms of Orndorff's life, they talked about his WWE days. And, back in those days, he was heel, babyface. And he was famously, of course, on the opposite heel team of T and Hogan at WrestleMania 1 in 1985 in Madison Square Garden, teaming up with Roddy Piper. And it was right after that match that Orndorff turned babyface. So Hogan was feuding with Orndorff there leading into WrestleMania 1. Then Orndorff would turn babyface, and Hogan would befriend him. They would become friends and kind of like occasional tag team partners. And that was, I remember that was a big deal, Hogan and Orndorff together. Prior to that, it was Hogan and Hillbilly Jim. Now it's Hulk Hogan and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who's recently turned babyface, but that only lasted, maybe a year or less. And in the big tag team match on television with Studd and Bundy, Orndorff turns on Hogan and hits him with a pile driver that set them on their 1986 feud, where, they had that big match, I guess, what was in Toronto, the big event. I have the VHS clamshell of the big event. Was it Toronto? I think it was Toronto. They had like 60,000 fucking people there. They had a Saturday night's main event cage match that blew the whole thing off. And I remember during those months of them feuding on TV and stuff, I was fearful that Mr. Wonderful actually would beat Hogan for the title. After he didn't beat Hogan for the title, he was still a member of the Bobby Heenan family, but would wind up turning babyface again. And in 1987, and I remember it was so weird when we got to Survivor Series 87 that year, and Hogan and Mr. Wonderful on the same team. And I'm like, you guys hated each other, then you were friends, then you hated each other, now you're friends again. 10-year-old me had trouble wrapping my head around that. But really, Orndorff, they never mentioned who he was in the ring with. I still don't know. Never even looked it up. but they talked about the injury. He took a really, really stiff clothesline like under the chin, and that's what gave him the nerve damage that caused, I think it was his left arm. I think it was his left arm to atrophy, and it was very, very noticeable on TV, and it started happening in the WWE. And basically, I remember Orndorff leaving right when Ravishing Rick Rude came in. So Rude was basically like Orndorff's replacement in the Heenan family. And Orndorff would be gone from WWE by late 87, early 88. He was gone. And that's when he went to try something else. He opened up a bowling alley that I actually competed at. I used to be an amateur competitive bowler. And we went down. I thought they actually owned more than one bowling alley because it was my buddy that knew. We were there. He's like, this is Orndorff's family's place. So I always thought they had more than one bowling alley, but they made it sound like Orndorff just opened the one, and he stepped away from wrestling for a couple of years. And he did that, and then once that started not working out, he realized he had to go back to wrestling to make ends meet, to get the bills paid and whatnot, and that's when he had a pretty decent run there in WCW, but they talked about his arm, they talked about the injury that he suffered there, landing in the ring and all stiff and whatnot, and, really showing the trouble and the issues he had there with his arm. And then into his later years, as he got a little bit older and he got a little bit sicker, and his son took a lot of flack for posting the video from the hospital of just a few days before he died. Just really uncool thing to post. Brian Blair was pretty pissed. A lot of people were pretty pissed. The son is trying to claim that the reason he did this was because he was trying to get his dad out to take him home. And I don't know, it was just a little sketchy. And so Paul Orndorff, kind of had, a sad end there where he was very sick and he passed away. But reliving his life, there's a lot of things about his life that I didn't know in terms of how he grew up and, how poor he was at one time. And, Paul Orndorff is someone that was kind of there right when I really started becoming a big fan. Been watching for a few years by the time I discovered Orndorff, but, once he was feuding with Hogan and stuff, that was really a major, major part of my wrestling memory there. So pretty decent episode this week. Kind of a weak season, but the Orndorff one was one of the better ones, I thought, because I found it interesting. But anyway, right, Aaliyah Gutierrez. Yeah, that's the Mysterio family's actual shoot names. But why would Dominic use Mysterio and not Aaliyah? But if we start pondering why WWE does or does not change wrestlers' names, we're going to be here for a while, running around in circles about that. But anyway, let's knock out some super chats here since I've been flapping my gums for the past couple of hours. Max Pokebra, KO doing the same. Wah, Punk was mean to me story. Yeah, well, Punk was mean to a lot of people. I mean, that's really, all you need with the Punk and Owen stuff. At least it's intriguing because there's real life scenarios that are tied into that. It's not just made up shit. It's real life, but it is going on 20 years now. And a lot of these stories are starting to sound the same. Every person that Punk has had an in-ring promo with or a match with or a rivalry with, the Drew McIntyre stuff, everybody, Roman Reigns, has all talked about Punk's past and how he's rubbed people the wrong way in the past and the perception of him from locker rooms and all of that is that is repetitive. It's very true. Michael Cuomo, 48-month member, bro. From what I remember, it was 30 days for mid-card titles. Example I see in 93 was Shawn, and it was 90 days for the world title back in the 60s. But you could be wrong on that. It might have been. Either way, Liv Morgan's exceeded both of those. So yeah, the 30-day thing has always been really, really loosely enforced, I feel like, over the past few years. So I'm glad that Chelsea is getting her 30 days. She deserves it. Garrett Osborne's got $5 for us. Thanks, dude. Did you see John Cena's cease and desist quote tweet to promote Coyote versus Acme this week? Also, thoughts on Haku's new Got Your Nose shirt. I'm not aware of either one of those things. Okay, so no, I did not see Cena's cease and desist quote tweet about the Coyote versus Acme, and I had no idea Haku's got a shirt referencing a nose. Is this because of the urban legend of him biting someone's nose off? That's pretty cool. Maybe that's something I'd buy. I don't know. But I'm glad. I hope Haku has merch. I hope he does, and I hope people buy it. Haku rules. So glad he's back. Moonsault, appreciate the 5. Genuine question. Why do you constantly say you don't give a shit about anything and act like nothing truly important happened after the Attitude Era? I do? What the fuck am I up here talking about? I just talked about, look at all these important things I talked about. Okay, Kevin Owens and CM Punk, I praised the hell out of that. Very, very important. We had 2 title changes on Smackdown this week. Very important. I love the Obafemi and Brock Lesnar confrontation. I'm sorry, Braun Breaker and Obafemi confrontation on Raw. I loved the Lucha tournament on Raw. I think that's great. Penta and Roman coming up next month in Mexico City. I thought, aside from a couple of weird things on Dynamite, that Dynamite even had some fun stuff going on, especially with the tease of the New Day with Swerve and the big match coming up with Kenny and Ospreay. I don't understand what the fuck you are talking about. What do you mean? I'm 50 years old, dude. I'm going to talk about what I want, what I like, what I have fondest memories of, but I wouldn't be up here talking about stuff if I didn't think they were important. Why do you think I have this YouTube channel? Because I'm a wrestling fan. What the fuck is wrong with people? Truly nothing important happened after the Attitude Era. Well, a lot of important things didn't happen after the Attitude Era, but plenty of important things did. But if you're going to sit there and try to tell me that 2010 versus 2019 had anything for fucking worth watching in there, I don't know if I can agree with you there, outside of a couple of special moments here and there, some good matches, some good moments. Outside of that, WWE has gone through big periods, chunks of time where it sucked. And that was a really, really poor level of the product there for a lot of years. But I was around long before the Attitude Era. I was in my 20s for the Attitude Era. Lots of stuff happened before that too that I loved and enjoyed. But over the years, wrestling changes and it evolves along with our opinions and how much we enjoy that. And it's all about where you at in your life, what do you do, what's your age, how long have you been watching. But if you're a kid, if you're fucking 25 years old, you're not going to understand the Attitude Era because you weren't born. So I don't know what to tell you there, C Moonsault, but thanks for the $5. K-Dog's Kennel, you're back. Cheers to you, my brother, and another month. All the best to you, Elizabeth and Tito. You hear that, Tito? Oh, Tito's gone. He was here. Kevin says, what's up? And Elizabeth is already off to work, but I'll tell her as well. Always good to see you, K-Dog. Let's see who else we got here. Garrett has got 5 more for us. Thanks, bro. Only advantage Andrade has being number 1 and MJF number 2. In the Casino Gauntlet, his first pinfall or submission, Speedball, Wayne, etc. can still appear / compete. I know, but now that we know that MJF and Andrade are 1 and 2, I feel like it might just be a one-on-one match. I'm okay if we don't get a bunch of people coming down. I think just MJF and Andrade would have been fun one-on-one. But is MJF going to win that again? Didn't he win it last year? Didn't he win that gauntlet last year? That's what got him the title shot to begin with. Am I misremembering that? So he'd be winning that 2 years in a row now. So I don't know. But yeah, you can still get lots of people in there if you want and make it a party. I feel like it's all in, so you're going to kind of have to do that. But if they wanted just to make it a one-on-one, you could, but they're not going to have enough time to get the whole match done, I guess. It might lead to another match on TV between the two of them. That's possible as well. Oh, KO was talking about the Bucks and Colt. Okay, I thought he was either talking about the Bucks and Hangman or the Bucks and Kenny or the Bucks and Perry. He was talking about the Bucks and Colt. I forgot about Colt, and you better be careful with that Colt Cabana shit because that's what set CM Punk off to begin with. So yeah, I kind of forgot about Colt Cabana. That's another major name that Punk has had a major falling out with. Ay. Mike Rouse started watching wrestling in 1978. You've been watching longer than me. I was just 1 year old. I might have seen wrestling, but I don't remember. I didn't start formulating wrestling memories until around 81 or 82. I don't know when Elizabeth's going to do another watch along with me, but we got to get her back up here at some point so we can do another one for the members. All right, guys, I got to head out of here to have one more night of work, and then I'm off for a few days. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, looking forward to that. Don't forget, tomorrow night, going to be fun. We're going to be here watching a big old SummerSlam vault watch-a-thon, all these matches. Macho and Zeus versus Hogan and Beefcake, Rock and Triple H ladder match, Orton and Christian, Cena and Brock, Cena and AJ, Brett and Owen, Brett and Perfect. 7 big matches, 3.5 hours on tap tomorrow night. Make sure you are here to join us for that. Do me a favor, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door, and I will be catching you guys tomorrow night for the big SummerSlam Watch-a-thon. I hope you guys have a great, great, great rest of your Saturday night, and I'll be catching y'all tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for hanging out. Peace.